let's see. Want to get back to this. Let's talk about beer, shall we? One of my favorite topics, certainly. The Minnesota Craft Brewers Guild announcing that a major move here for a major beer festival, moving to Bemidji beginning next year. This is the Pints North Summer Brew Fest. Let's bring in Bob Galligan of the Minnesota Craft Brewers Guild to talk more about this. Thanks for joining us. I always like talking beer. Not as quite much as I enjoy drinking it, but, you know, it's the next best
You
thing.
and me both, yeah.
How did you become what is your official title with the Craft Brewers Guild?
I am the Director of Government and Industry Relations for the Minnesota Craft Brewers Guild, but I was in the industry as everything from a canning line operator to a head brewer to a taproom manager to I was a sensory specialist at Surly for 5 years.
Oh.
So I interact with the industry and the government and do that type of stuff. And there are others who keep the organization alive. But yeah, it's an interesting role. I can say that.
Very much so. Before we talk about the festival, All Pints North, and its move to Bemidji next year, let's talk about the state of craft brewing in Minnesota. Certainly, we've seen some of the tap houses that have either closed down or moved or reconfigured operations. It seems like it's been a tough few years in the industry.
Oh, absolutely. And it's been a tough few years in the industry, both across the nation. It's also been a tough few years for the industry across the globe. Alcohol consumption by and large is down. So a lot of our members have definitely taken a step back and kind of, throughout the pandemic, we became what I like to say the princes and the princesses of the pivot. Very quick pivots are nothing new to us. They are, it can be exhausting, which I think is what some of these either closures or some of these kind of changing of hands is kind of about. But there's no getting across the fact that times continue to change, and the question just continues for our members, but then even us as an organization, how do we change along with it? Which is kind of part of the reason why we decided that this year was the year to finally announce and move one of the state's biggest and oldest craft beer festivals.
Yeah, in terms of the troubles, the changing trends is part of it. We did see a rapid expansion of the number of, craft brews and tap houses. I mean, did it become a point where there were just more places than consumers could support? Was it the physical locations that were too many? It certainly wasn't the amount of beer.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think there's no getting away from the fact that when there are more operators of a certain product within a geographical location, there's going to be more competition. Absolutely. Having said that, our opening to closings, especially in Minnesota, were actually better than the national average up until 2025 is where kind of the reality that everyone else was seeing kind of hit our state. Having said that, we still are seeing openings. They tend to just be in different locations. So they tend to be in kind of more rural locations or even more suburban locations. A lot of that comes down to supply and definitely operating with different communities. A lot of that comes down to the cost of rent in kind of more urban areas. So we always get the question, is this where the bubble bursts necessarily? And I don't think it's necessarily a bubble bursting. I also think there's no getting away from the fact that the economy just keeps changing so drastically and on a whim, whether that is, trade talks, whether that is rising costs of supplies, rising costs of labor. So I think there's just a lot of shakeups that have happened that no one could prepare for. I mean, I don't think anyone has ever written a business plan for the current economic conditions that small businesses are having to deal with. In my opinion.
So the All Pints North Beer Festival voted best festival, best beer fest by different publications, a key fundraiser for the Minnesota Craft Brewers Guild. Its history has been in Duluth along the shores of Lake Superior for 14 years.
14, yeah.
Yeah. What brought the change now beginning next year to go to Bemidji?
Yeah, the talk of moving the festival has been underway for quite some time. So before I actually was employed by the Guild, I served on the board back in 2020, 2021. And this was a conversation that we were having even back then. Beer festivals, just by and large, also have changed drastically, whether that is the consumer, whether that is kind of the format of them. And so, Obviously, All Pints North has been that kind of staple, especially for a lot of people in the craft brewing industry for the past 14 years. But the question was always up in the air, should we go explore other regions of the state? Should we be celebrating other communities as well? All Pints North in particular has always been a celebration of kind of the summertime enjoyment in the state of Minnesota, obviously celebrating craft beer, but also celebrating our bodies of water and celebrating our members. And so, the whole idea is that we're continuing that celebration and kind of that spirit, and it's almost like a summer camp vibe for a lot of our members. It's a good chance. Summer is the busy time for beer, so it's a chance to, go away and check in with each other, see how the market's doing, but then also remember just the fun that is inherent in the industry of craft beer. So taking that somewhere else was kind of the idea, and it was just about time now after 14 years, we thought.
Yeah, well, a great event. Appreciate the time. We're out of time. I anticipate seeing you guys at the State Fair again, though.
Oh, absolutely. We'll be there. We're already underway.
In the horticulture building, right?
Indeed.
Yeah,
yep,
I always find you, and I get the platter.
Good. We'll be
sampler. There. Yeah, appreciate it.
We will absolutely be there.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Thanks so much. I got to take another quick break here.